What's up, y'all? This is TJ with Fake It or Make It. In today's video, I'm going to be cleaning up this old Hunter Arms 16 gauge double barrel shotgun. This is a what they call the Fulton, and it's a box lock hammerless shotgun. And I believe, from what I research, I believe it was manufactured in 1919. So this gun is pretty old and probably one of the oldest guns I've ever had in the shop. And it has a little bit of damage, but it's in really excellent condition considering its age. And this wasn't just something that sat around in a safe. This thing was used on a daily basis. This thing has had a long, hard life. And so what the family wants to do is just clean it up and maybe make some of this stock repair that's on here, make that a little more eye appealing, and just make sure that everything is nice and functional. They don't plan on shooting it or anything like that. They just want to clean it up and stabilize it and get it ready for storage. And this is just a really neat old gun. And the original stock here had a repair done on it where they took some screws and they ran them through the stock and receiver there, right here above the trigger, going through and through. And they took the stock and looks like they had glued the brake and they put it back together, and that's how they fastened the brake and the splice together. So I'm hoping that I can make this a little more attractive. And like I say, this isn't going to be like a complete restoration. What I plan on doing is cleaning up the wood on the stock, maybe even just pulling off the old oil and try and remove as much of this old oil off, get it out of the wood as much as I can, and then come back and re-oil the surface of the wood furniture on this old shotgun. And I'll post some pictures, but you can actually see where the original checkering was, and you could definitely tell it was done by hand. And that is just so fascinating, because I think this is the first gun I've ever had in the shop here that actually has hand checkering on it, and it just wasn't stamped on. So it's really fascinating to me, and it has some nice features that seem to be pretty sought after by shotgun enthusiasts. And it's just a really nice specimen, and I'm really excited to have it here in the shop. Now, from what I've read, restoring and refinishing something like this can reduce its value by up to 50%. Now, that's not going to be a factor here because the gun is not necessarily collectible. It is a family heirloom, and there is no plans to sell it or anything like that. This is something that's going to stay in the family, and its value is not the important part. The actual firearm itself is the important part. That is where the value is to this family. The life of the people that own this and handed down, and just the provenance that goes along with it, and the stories and the history, that is the value. The money is not. And so we're just going to clean it up, try and make this repair on the stock look a little more appealing, and see if we can get it back to them in better shape than what it was brought to me in. So I'm really excited, and I hope you guys enjoy the video and follow along. I can't get this stock off. I managed to get this side to break free of the receiver, but I could not get this side, and I've used my dead blow hammer and tapped around and lightly tapped and kind of gently tried to remove it, but it just, whenever I look down into the crevices with my flashlight, you can see that there's some kind of adhesive all squished out in here. And I don't really know how I'm going to handle that. And I very well may not be able to remove this stock. I've been working on this idea for quite a while. So what I came up with is I took my brass rod and I cut threads on it. They're 8/32 threads. On one end I cut a flathead screwdriver slot, and the theory is that being that the old screws were threaded, they actually used they made their hole in the stock a little bit smaller than the actual shank size of the screw, and it looked like they cut the threads on the way through whenever they screwed in these old screws. I only get one shot at this, because if I screw up at this point, then it's going to have to be drilled out. Because what my plan is to cut that off right here, kind of close to the stock on both sides, and then peen this over. Kind of peen it over on both sides without damaging the stock. I've got my trailer hitch on my ball hitch here, and I started out on the first one by working off the flat of the ball here. And so, because I can rest and check underneath, I can see that my stub is on the ball down here on this flat, and then I take the ball portion of my peen and just start gently tapping it and peening it over. And you want to make sure anytime you're painting something over that you are you're striking against this hard backstop, or else you'll just end up driving it through. Okay, now that I've kind of peened this over, I want to flip it over, and then being that's a little smaller area now that I've peened it and it's shorter, I'm going to go on the side of the sphere, rest it on there, and then peen this side like so. Alright, I just got the painting of the brass screws done. They're kind of rough, but I think it kind of adds to the overall appearance of this particular piece here, because once I kind of scuff them up and smooth them out and do a little more work on them, they'll kind of look like they was made to be in there, and it'll look just like a part of it. And I was worried about the dimples where it kind of countersunk the head and the nut of the original screws that was in there, but it actually looks just fine, and that's what it looks like peened over. So, I mean, I don't think that looks too bad. What do y'all think? I could see something looking down the side with my flashlight, and I see there's some kind of fabric. They took an old cleaning patch and stuffed it into the female area of the foregrip and then slammed it on tight. There's this pretty monstrous gap for what it is right here. There's nothing for this thing to push up against. So that's whenever I had the idea to try and put something up there to kind of test my theory. And what do you know? It holds it. Holds it just fine. So that means that my theory was correct in that for whatever reason, this gap that's present between this bar and this lug is what was keeping it from staying put. So the real question is, how do I make a decent repair out of this? I happen to have this brass stock that is I guess, I don't know, say 1,000 thick by let's say 0.245 wide, and I trimmed off a little piece, and coincidentally it's the same exact width as this lug right here on the bed of this lug. So I can place this little key right here I can place it right there. If you can see, it just sits right there in the corner. It's just a tiny little piece of brass, and that's all it needed. It's so light that it gets stuck to my fingers. So now, with that piece of brass in place, I can carefully get right up next to it, and I'll show you. This is what you're looking at, or this is what I'm looking at, and the torsion bar is up against that piece of brass, and it occupies just enough space to give me a perfect amount of tension. And I really gotta pull up on it to get it loose, and that's where it needs to be. snaps right in place, nice and tight. Now, is that a gunsmith fix? Hell to the no. It is not a gunsmith fix. This is a fake it or make it fix. Does it work? Yeah, it works. Is it spectacular and, you know, world changing and you know, questions the laws of physics and all that? No. Cut a piece of brass, put it in there. It fit, makes it tighter, makes it better than it was. It's better than a 113 or 103-year-old cleaning patch stuffed in there. At least it's a piece of brass. And if somebody does happen to be fooling around with it, all they have to do is just get a piece of brass, saw it off, a piece like this, put it in there. So, there it is. That's it for this video. Now, here is the finished product. Does it look substantially different? Does it look like a brand new gun? Does it look totally different? No, it doesn't. And that's the point. Oftentimes I feel like we get way too wrapped up in the before and the after. And sometimes things are better left alone. And in this case, leaving the patina, leaving the beautiful scars and the pock marks and the notches and the scratches and the worn checkering, sometimes that's what you just have to do. And in this case, I think it turned out great. I'm really excited and I can't wait for them to see it. Did this stuff have to be done to preserve it? Not necessarily. There was some rust down in the foregrip and some kind of nastiness in there. The bore, I went ahead and cleaned the bore out. The bore was kind of gross, so I went ahead and ran some patches and some cleaner through there and got the bore nice and oiled and cleaned up. The brass pins, was that absolutely a necessity? No. Does it look better than having a flathead carriage bolt on one side and a nut on the other? Yes, it looks way better than that. And oftentimes, whenever somebody brings me something like this and they really don't want to do any kind of major alterations, they just want to give their item a little TLC, give it a little love. And there's a lot of spirit in these items, and there's a lot of people who say that you don't need to be putting so much heart and soul into material items, and I can understand that. But for me, I'm nostalgic and I'm very sentimental, so this stuff really touches me in my heart. And to be able to take an old item like this and give it a little tender loving care, clean it up, give it a little makeover, and just kind of help further preserve it for future generations to enjoy, I feel like that was a necessity. I feel like it makes people feel good to be able to take something like this and have somebody appreciate it as well, and take the time and go through it and look at it and just really appreciate what you're holding in your hand, and just take the time to clean it up and love it for a little while before it gets put back in the safe. You know, I know this is kind of silly to some people, but this is really important to me, and it's way more important than, you know, having something and stripping it all down, putting new parts on it and stuff like that. These are very special projects to me, and I love doing these projects, and they're the kind of projects I gravitate towards. And yeah, they could have brought this thing to a gunsmith and had a gunsmith completely rework it and go through it and all that good stuff. But you know, at the end of the day, that's extremely expensive, and if you're never going to shoot this thing or anything like that, and you want to preserve exactly the way it looks whenever you inherited it from the person that you got it from, you know, I'm the kind of guy you bring it to. And I don't feel like I hurt this gun in any way. Everything I've done to it, I feel like I helped it, and I did not go into anything that was beyond my skill set or my capabilities. And, you know, case in point is the stock, and whatever was done to this stock to repair it from its initial break has it froze in place on the rear of the receiver, and you're not going to be able to get this thing off without destroying the stock. So that was a no-go. So I had to do the best I could, clean this thing up, and get everything I could done to it without going any deeper into it. And I feel like it turned out okay. I really like it. The brass pins, I feel like, are a nice touch. They look really rugged and rough and rustic, and they look like they was done many years ago. It doesn't look like it was just done, so I'm really pleased with that. So again, this is the Hunter Arms The Fulton 16 gauge box lock double barrel shotgun. Alright guys, that's it for this video. It's been a fun project. I hope you enjoyed it. If you've done any work like this, please let me know down in the comment sections. And I'm really intrigued to hear about the projects you have going on in your shop, and let me know just anything, man. I'm always up for a conversation. I love the comment section, so let's have a conversation down there. I appreciate you guys. Y'all stay safe. Y'all come back now.